Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to recap all the games that I played in February and talk to you a little bit about each one, kind of give you a mini review, and then also tell you what my top picks were for the month. So if you're curious to see what games hit the table at my household, stay tuned. All right, first off for the stats, in February 2023, I was able to play 35 gameplays of 24 different games, 15 of which were new to me, which is a little bit higher than normal, a little lower on the gameplay, a little higher on the number of new games, and most of them because they were new, and a lot of them I don't own or I played on BGA, just played one time. So I'm going to kind of recap them from kind of least played to most played and in reverse alphabetical order, because that's kind of how BGA orders it for me. So let's start off with my first one of the games that I played just once, and it was Viticulture. Now this is the Viticulture wine crate box, but I played just the base game of Viticulture on BGA this month. So didn't actually play the physical board game, but have played Viticulture quite a bit and enjoyed my one play on BGA. I've been getting a little bit more experience with a lot of games on BGA recently. Another one that I played that was not new to me is Tapestry, and I do have the physical game, but this was another one that I played on BGA. I did recently back the newest expansion and the storage solution, so I'm excited to get that folded space insert so that I can put everything organized with the expansions, and hopefully it'll be more I'll be more incentivized to then get it to the table in physical form when it's not just all in a million little baggies. So Tapestry, I really enjoyed it. Had a great time playing it again. It's been a while, but loved my one play of Tapestry. Next up is a game that I don't own and also played on BGA, and that is Stone Age. It wasn't new to me. I actually played it a few times last fall at the World Series of Board Gaming. One of my friends, John, and his wife taught me how to play, taught me and my wife how to play. And then I also played in a little mini tournament, an open or outer ring circle tournament there. Didn't do very well, but enjoyed it and playing again now on BGA. So that was just one time this month. Another game, this one actually was new to me and also on BGA, and that is Space Station Phoenix. Really enjoying this game. It's a unique game of really an engine building. You're trying to build your ship. You're trying to collect either humans or aliens onto that ship, and in such a pattern as to increase your income every round, and you're using the different stations on your ship to accomplish different tasks. I'm really enjoying this game quite a bit, Space Station Phoenix. The next one was another new game to me. I played it in physical form, but I don't own it, but played it at actually Strategicon in downtown LA just a few weeks ago with some of my friends. And same friend who taught me Stone Age also taught me Ra. And Ra is a Reiner Knizia bidding game, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm looking forward. I did back the new remake. I think it's by 25th Century Games is who puts that out, if I'm not mistaken. And hopefully that's going to be coming in the next couple of months. And excited to play that kind of upgraded version of it. But for my first play of Ra, I really enjoyed it. It was a different kind of game that I'm used to playing. I don't play a lot of bidding games anyway, but this one had just a unique fashion of bidding. And also kind of an engine building game. We're trying to accumulate points, some that are permanent, some that are round by round. So a really interesting game. I looked forward to that. And it did really come to a fun crescendo at the end. You know, all of us that were out of the final round were all cheering rah, rah, rah when we were trying to get that last raw token to come out so that it would end the game and not give the players that were still in the bidding to have a chance to earn some more points. So a great experience playing raw. Another one was the Princes of Florence, and again at Strategicon, my friend taught us this game, and I also really enjoyed this one. It has also an interesting, you got to bid. It's not a Reiner Knizia game. I forget actually the designer of this game, but you have to bid for at the beginning of the round for an action, and then you're also then purchasing different buildings or actions or education forms. I forget if it's called education or what those little tiles were. It was religion and communication or something like that. There were these different tiles, and you could use those. You had to try to get combinations of buildings and people and those factions, those education forms. I wish I could remember the name of that tile. That you had to get combinations of those to earn the most points as you were trying to play out these certain cards. And so I only played it that one time, and I don't own it, but had a good time with it. Another one that I do own and actually just played for the first time was the Oracle of Delphi, a Stefan Feld game. This one doesn't feel that much like a Stefan Feld game to me, but it's a race game, which isn't, I don't think, very typical of at least not the games I've played of his. And you are moving your ship around this map, and you're trying to transport statues, you're trying to provide goods to different people, you're trying to defeat monsters, and all along you're gaining points for doing this, but you have to be the first one to accomplish all 12 goals, and everybody has the same 12 goals, but you're trying to accomplish those 12 goals, be the first one, and then get back to the center. And a really interesting game. It's a Euro game in the sense of how you have to collect things and move things and plan out your movements. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'd like to play it again. I think we may have been playing one rule wrong. I feel bad about that because I was the one teaching the game. But none of us had ever played it, and I was just going off trying to have read the rules and watched a couple playthroughs. But I think we might have had one rule wrong, but we were pretty close. And so I'm excited to try it again, the Oracle of Delphi. Put that one over here. So that was another new one to me that I just played once. Another new one played on BGA, and one that I don't own is Nova Luna. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that might be an Uwe Rosenberg game. I could be wrong about that, but it's an interesting game too. It's a pattern building game. You're putting out these tiles, and they all have colors and requirements. And so one tile might say it needs to be close to 3 blue ones, and another one might say it needs to be close to 2 green ones and 2 orange ones. And so you're trying to put them down in a pattern to satisfy as many of those different properties as you can. And when that tile has its requirements satisfied, you put a little token on it, and the first one to get all their tokens placed wins. So really enjoyed Nova Luna, just played it that one time on BGA. Another game that I do own and played, and this one was not new to me, and that is Moonrakers. It was the first time I'd ever played, whoops, upside down. First time I'd ever played it with 5 players, and it did drag just a little bit, but that may have been because I was the only one that never played it. So I think if we were all more familiar with the game and there didn't have to be a teach ahead of time and things like that, it might have gone a little bit quicker. But I did enjoy it and continue to enjoy Moonrakers. I'm very excited to get the Titan edition that I backed. I think that's coming again in a couple months, and it has some expansions to kind of smooth out a few of the little rough edges. There's nothing that I really dislike about the game of Moonrakers, but there are a few things in the terms of how the negotiation works and being incentivized to negotiate and cooperate in those negotiations, and some of the expansions I think help with that. So Moonrakers was a good one. Again, not new to me. Let's see, where can I put this so it's not blocking everything off? All right. So Moonrakers, another really good one that was not new to me. Another new to me game, and one that I just played once, was Mille Fiori, and I believe that's a Ryder Knizia game, but owned by one of my friends. He taught us how to play, and I really enjoyed this one too. It's almost like a bunch of little mini games, and you can focus on a certain few of them, or you can try to spread out. I think it's probably better to focus on a few of them, but you're drawing these cards, and the cards you draw might really dictate. It's a drafting game too, so you're drawing and you're passing, but the cards you get might kind of dictate where you want to focus. And every little mini game works a little different. There's some that are kind of pyramid organized, where you have to kind of build up the bottom layer and move up, and then others where you're building patterns, and others where you're building chains, and yeah, really interesting. And then along the score track too, there's these advantages that if you can score at certain times, you can reach these other advantages. And also the first one to meet certain goals in each of the little mini games gets bonuses. So lots of fun things. Only played it the one time, but I'd love to play that one again. Another one that I actually do own but don't have here with me that I played for the first time is Marrakesh. It's part of the city collection of the Stefan Feld games, and I actually loaned it to my friend, and he was willing to learn it and teach it to us at the next game night because I had a really busy week that week. And so it's actually still at his house, but we had a great time playing it together. And again, as a Stefan Feld game, it's very point salad, where you're trying to figure out, okay, what is the best way for me to earn these points? And there were all these different areas where you could focus your workers, and yeah, different patterns to build in each one. And I would really like to play it. The first time through, I was just trying to grasp how everything kind of meshed. It wasn't, in some ways, it was complicated in some ways because there was a lot of little mini games all over the place. But in other ways, the complexity to me was more about, okay, what do I need to focus on here? And you can't do it all. And I think that's one of the kind of unique things about most Feld games is you want to do it all and you can't do it all. And so Marrakesh is really fun. It also has this little cube tower where you're all putting in cubes at the beginning for each round, and then so you have to decide which colored cubes you want, because the color of the cubes that come out dictate which actions you're going to be able to take and which workers you can place and where. So really an interesting game. I can't wait to try it again. Marrakesh is another one I just played once. And we had kind of a failed month, it looks like, because the next one up is one that I do own, and it is In the Year of the Dragon. This is the 10th anniversary edition. Found it actually at a half-price bookstore up in Seattle when I was visiting my kids during Christmas. And this one is kind of a rough, brutal type of a game where you've got all these things, mostly bad things like famine and a dictatorship that's coming along, and invaders, all kinds of bad things. You're trying to figure out how can you avoid them, and yet you're also trying to build up this little tableau, but you're going to lose some of the people you're placing in that tableau. It's almost impossible not to, because there's no way you can, or it almost seems like there's no way you can accomplish everything that the game dictates that you need to. But there's a bit of a race for first player, because the first player position in choosing the actions, because you only put out a few actions, and then once it's taken, it's kind of blocked from everybody else. So that seemed to be an interesting twist. There's not so many games that I've played where being first player seemed to have such a big advantage. And so that deciding how you could become first player and maintain that was a big part of the game. At least, just played it once. So maybe there's some things that we didn't quite pick up on that would be different if you played it a lot. But I really enjoyed the In the Year of the Dragon, that one play, and got to play the physical copy of that one. All right, where am I at on my list here? All right, so next one was also on BGA. Not new to me. I'd played A Feast for Odin before. Played with the Norwegians expansion before, and this time just played with the base game on BGA. And it continues to be a game that baffles me. I'm not sure if that's true for Uwe Rosenberg games, if they just don't quite click with the way my brain works. I just have a hard time looking at that many different options to choose from and figuring out a good path or plan. I just feel like I'm sort of wandering around in the mist. And so for some reason, my brain just hasn't grasped those. And I've heard some other people talk about these kind of games on their videos where they say, once I played it 17 times, then I really started to get some good ideas about strategies to be successful. And it's very seldom that I'm going to play a game that takes that much time, that many times. And so, yeah, I enjoy it every time I play it, but I'm also not falling in love with it. It's like, I enjoy it. It's an interesting puzzle, but I think because at least after just 2 plays, I'm not really getting a great grasp of how to be successful in it. So enjoyed A Feast for Odin. I don't think I enjoyed it nearly as much on BGA as I did with the actual game. There were just so many, it was hard to see on the screen, and I would much rather play that one in person than on BGA. All right, next up was a new game that I picked up recently and wanted to play with my wife because she's a biology teacher and loves a lot of these science-related games, and this is Evolution. This is an interesting game, too, where you're laying out these cards, and the cards represent animals, and you're putting different traits on those animals, but you have to feed the animals, and so the bigger your population of those kind of animals get, the more food you have to have, but the bigger their body size is, then the more effective they are as carnivores to eat the herbivores. So you could play it totally solitaire and not attack each other at all with the carnivores, or you could really be aggressive with it. So I kind of like that flexibility. And we only played it once, so I can't speak too much to it. But it was an interesting puzzle. We had a really close game. I don't even honestly remember who won, but I enjoyed it. I don't know how often we'll come back to it. It's really pretty, and it plays pretty quick. I'd like to give it a couple more tries, but it may be one that doesn't have a ton of staying power, although it was a fun game. So it kind of fits in this weird, I liked it but didn't love it. It's beautiful. It's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. It didn't just grasp me, but I did enjoy it, and I do want to play it again. So that is Evolution. All right, next up, another new one to me, one that I own and one that I hadn't played. It was on my shelf of shame for the longest time, but this is Empires of the Void 2. It's a Ryan Lockett game, Red Raven Games. And this one, I've heard a lot of people describe it as like Twilight Imperium in a short version. And it is sort of a space-themed 4X type of a game. I really did enjoy this one and would love to get this one back to the table. It reminds me a little bit of Ancient World and the feeling I got for it, not the way the games play. They felt very different in gameplay, but both times I was just so impressed with how much fun I was having playing the game. But both games had enough complexity that if I don't play them again soon, it's going to be almost like it's my first game over again next time. So I really want to get Empires of the Void 2 back to the table. I really want to get the Ancient World back to the table. just because I feel like I'm going to forget all the nitty-gritty details that you need to know. But I had so much fun both times with both of these games. This one, you're flying all over space and you're trying to basically kind of take over planets, but you can do so with diplomacy or with combat. And you can send out ships and you can leave ships behind, and you're gaining different abilities throughout the game. So it's very interesting. As you're working across your player board, you're uncovering new abilities as you invest in other features. So yeah, I really enjoyed my play of Empires of the Void 2 and hope to play it again soon. All right, let's see. Let's put this one over here on this side. It's starting to get crowded here in the middle. All right, so what do we have next? All right, so now I'm getting into the end of the games that I just played once. So next up is Applejack. Applejack's a Uwe Rosenberg game that is on the simpler side, and my brain could grasp it. But we played this one on BGA, and it's a cute little game. It's a tile placement game. Again, a pattern building game, much like Nova Luna. I actually like the aesthetic of the Applejack game better than I did Nova Luna, but I enjoyed both. They felt very, very similar in their gameplay, trying to get patterns of different kinds of apples. And then not only the apples, but there's little blossoms you're trying to pair up to. I think they were blossoms. Oh, blossoms give you points. There are all these other numbers. You're trying to pair up the numbers to gain your victory points. And it's got an interesting circular board, a main board that you're going around circular path, and you're seeing, okay, which apples are going to score next. So it gives you some incentive and some direction as to which patterns you should focus on first. And so that was kind of interesting. That was a little twist that made it different than Nova Luna. I enjoyed my play of Applejack. Next up, another Uwe game, Agricola. And I'd never played Agricola. I thought maybe I had years ago. I remember playing a farming game years ago when we were still living in Indonesia, and a friend of ours taught it to us. But then when I was playing Agricola, and it was on BGA, so maybe that was a difference, it felt really different. I don't really remember it being that way. So I think maybe the game we played years ago was something else, and I just had them confused. But anyway, it was a little bit like a Feast for Odin. There aren't that many decisions like there are in a Feast for Odin, because they're kind of growing, the things you can choose from. But the competition for spots, the needing to feed your people, the needing to expand your terrain, and by either fencing in terrain for your animals, or plowing fields to grow crops, or expanding your house. But there was something about the BGA implementation of this that I was just not figuring out. I kept trying to play certain actions, and it looked like by what the card said I should have been able to play it, but it wasn't letting me. So maybe I wasn't understanding the rules, because it was the first time I played Agricola. I enjoyed it. It was fine. I don't know that I'd be in a hurry to go back to it. And again, it might just be that I tried it on BGA for the first time and there were just things I wasn't understanding. Maybe if I had the actual physical game and someone who had played it before to maybe help me understand, there might have just been some little details I wasn't missing. But I kept trying to expand my household, and every time I tried to use that action, it said I couldn't, but it looked like I had all the resources I needed, so I was missing something. So it was fine. Agricola, I don't know that I'd be in a hurry to go back to it. I liked Caverna quite a bit better, but I played Caverna physical form with a good teacher. So Agricola I'm trying to learn on my own on BGA, so who knows what the difference is. I'd like to try it again, preferably with the actual board game, to see if I enjoy it or not. All right, now we're into the games that I've played multiple times. So lots of games that I only had a chance to play once. These last several I got to play multiple times. And again, just kind of going in reverse alphabetical order as BGA lists it. So this first one up is Zaberias. And this is actually a review copy that was sent to me. And I've got 4 different factions here. And I'm going to have a review of this one. Let's see if I can get this in the middle here. I'm going to have a review of this one coming soon. My wife and I were able to play this a few times. We played all the different factions and tried all the different characters. And it's an interesting game. It says it's an educational game, and I can see that on one hand. It feels just more like a tactical combat game. Anyway, I'll give a full review of it in my video. You can look forward to that. I'll have that soon. The design is very interesting. I have some concerns about the practicality of it. And the gameplay was very interesting, and especially if you like tactical head-to-head battle games, I think a lot of people would enjoy this one. That's not really the style of game my wife and I enjoy most, so we did enjoy it. We had a good time with it, and I'll give a more full review of it coming soon. So Zaberias. Another one that I've played multiple times and only on BGA, but I'm waiting for my copy to arrive, the Kickstarter version, very soon, and that is Earth by, I think it's Inside Up Games, if I remember correctly. And it is a beautiful game. I like playing it on BGA, but playing asynchronous on BGA I don't think is ideal, just because you have follow actions a lot. So it just feels like you're always having to go back and do a follow action just to keep the game moving. I think playing it live on BJ would be better, and I think playing the physical board game will be excellent. It was fun. I'm glad we played it, and I've enjoyed my plays. But I think the asynchronous nature of it on BJ just wasn't terrific for me. But the game is amazing. It's beautiful art. You're building up this tableau of cards, and you're thinking about where you place the cards, because sometimes the placement of the cards matters in terms of the effects that the card has. And like I said, there's a follow action. So if someone takes the plant action, you're going to get a lesser version of that plant action after they're done. And if someone takes the grow action, you're going to get a grow action or a watering action. Whatever they choose, you're going to get a lesser version of that. And I really like games that do that, so you're staying engaged all the time. And the design of collecting soil and composting and planting different plants that synergize. And there's a lot of different game end scoring tiles or cards that are going to be different every game. And you have some that are private and you have some that are public. So lots of really cool things. It's got a neat feature where you're growing plants on the cards with these little tiles, these little wooden chunks, and you build up the trunk, and on the top you get the canopy of the tree or the bush, and they have different sizes depending on if it's a tree or if it's a bush. And yeah, there's lots of little fun things, little sprouts that you're putting out as wooden cubes on there to earn points. I'm really enjoying Earth. I can't wait to play the physical version, and we played that a few times on BGA. Next up is Aeon's End. I used to own it and traded it away, and so I primarily just play it on Steam right now. And it's a game that I enjoy, my wife enjoys, neither of us really loved, and so in the end, after we had played through the legacy version, after we had played the regular game, just kind of traded away to get some other games to try out. And Aeon's End is a fun, it's a kind of a deck builder game. An interesting thing about Aeon's End, when you build your deck, every time you buy a new card, you're going to put it down in your discard, but you can arrange the discard pile how you want, and then when you take it back, you don't shuffle it. You flip it back over, so there's an interesting dynamic there in the way you build your deck. And you're working cooperatively to defeat different monsters, and they have minions that you got to defeat along the way, and so an interesting game. Next up, another one not new to me, but one that we played several times while we were on vacation recently, and that is Legends of Andor. We focused on this Journey to the North version. We had played the base game of Andor, Legends of Andor, I don't know, 15, 20 times. We'd played all of the legends, many of them multiple times. We'd played all the Star Shield expansion legends several times. So I don't know how many that adds up to, but probably around 15 to 20 times. And then my wife and I played 2 characters apiece, and we were playing the Legends of Andor Journey to the North. And both of the legends, I think we played 4 times, because we did the legend, got beat, did the legend, won it, and then did the legend, got beat. So we were, yeah, it's interesting. And maybe it was just because we didn't have our son. When we played before, we usually had our son. He's really good at figuring out these puzzles. And just the two of us, maybe we were a little handicapped without his help. But we had a great time. We had the soundtrack playing in the background. And it just feels so much fun to... And this one's interesting because you're flying around the board on a ship. And the thing we were trying to wrestle with that was so different than the base game is when you need to split your party up. Because in the base game, you're not really incentivized to keep people together. You just go off and do your things, and you say, hey, you go do this, I'll go do this, and you're trying to get everything done in time. But on this one, you're on a boat going from island to island and trying to accomplish these goals, and it limits a little bit your action. There are ways you can go from island to island other ways, but it costs more time, and time is an important factor in this game. And so, yeah, we loved it. It's beautiful art by Michael Menzel, and the gameplay is really terrific. We like cooperative games as well. So, yeah, that one is an amazing game that we played several times and had a wonderful time with. Next up is 8-Minute Empire. And I haven't played the physical version of this in quite a while, but it was recently on sale on Steam. And so I picked up like the big pack of it for like $5 with all the expansions and everything. And kind of went down a rabbit hole and played it a handful of times. Just learning how to play that Steam version of it and reminding myself about the game. It's an area control game, very simple, very quick. And the Steam implementation is really nice. You can play solo against an AI. So 8-Minute Empire by Ryan Lockett and Red Raven Games, another really good one that I played several times. Next up on vacation, my wife and I also played Ark Nova a couple of times, and 2 or 3 times, I can't remember exactly. But this is a game that I love, and her first impression, the first time she played it, she said, oh, this might become my favorite game. And then the next time she's like, yeah, I really like it. I'm not as sure I love it as much as I thought the first impression. So I think we did just play it twice. It is a longer game. Even at 2, it took us quite a bit of time. And we're both learning the game. I mean, I've played it 4 times now, I think, total, and she's just played it twice. Maybe 3 times. So we're still trying to figure things out and still enjoying it. We'll see. I think it is one of those games because it takes a little bit of time to set it up. There's a lot of pieces and parts, and then it also, if you haven't played in a while, you got to refresh your memory a bit. So yeah, we are enjoying Ark Nova, and I'm sure we'll continue to play it. We'll see the staying power, how much it has. Next up, one that I picked up at Strategicon actually, and it is Archaeology, the new expedition, a Phil Walker Harding game by Z-Man Games, I think. Yeah, Z-Man Games. And this is a fun little card game. I just picked it up at Strategicon and played it with a group of friends there and said, hey, you want to figure this out and play it right now? I think I traded for it or bought it at the flea market. I can't remember. And so played this one. It's an interesting game. Then I brought it home, and then my wife and I played a few times. It plays really fast. You've got a variety of different monuments you can visit, and there's cards stashed there. And depending on the monument, they're stashed in different ways. Sometimes you just take piles depending on how many map cards you play. Other times you are searching through the deck or randomly taking cards, or there's like a push your luck feature for one of the monuments, so that's an interesting thing. And you're gathering cards in your hand and play. It's a set collection. You're playing sets down as you sell those to the museum, the different artifacts that you find. But some of the artifacts, just having 2 of them is really all you need to score well. Other times you need 4 or 5 of them to score well. Some of them are less represented in the deck, so they're harder to get. But anytime you see a card in the market, you can trade to take those, or you can, you can put them down in the museum if you get sets that you're ready to sell. So we really enjoyed it. It's a simple game, and like I said, played it a few times. Of the different little card games that play quickly, I feel like this has enough variability. I could see this one sticking around for a while in our collection. Archaeology was the last game on the list. All right, so top picks of the month. So I was thinking back through in terms of the games getting back to the table for me. There were a few games. One, Ark Nova. Like I said, I'm still really enjoying it, but a little bit of the luster wore off the more we've played it. And I don't know exactly why that is. I'm still enjoying it. Still would like to play it more. I'm excited to have it. But I don't know. So it's up there. It was vying for top game. And maybe a month ago it would have felt like, that'd be an obvious choice. It's going to be my favorite game back to the table. But it falls actually third. And I have there were 15 new games. That means 9 games weren't new to me. So it's third out of 9. So it's still pretty good. But it wasn't as high as I thought going into the month. And then the second one actually that kind of surprised me, I hadn't played it in ages, was Tapestry. Really enjoyed this game again, and I'm excited to get the new expansion, excited to get that insert to hopefully make it easier to get to the table and clean up afterwards. I remember playing it with my son, especially. I played it with my wife too, but especially when our son was still living with us. We played quite a few times, and we really had a good time with it. But it had been probably over a year since I had played it, and this one actually just stood out to me more this time around, how much fun it is and how much I enjoyed Tapestry. But my favorite game that was getting back to the table has to be Legends of Andor. I mean, it's probably, when I think about my favorite game of all time, I think it's Legends of Andor. Just we've had so many terrific memories. And even my wife and I, we were just laughing and having a great time. And yeah, there's just something about this game that resonates with us so well that it was great. In some ways it was new because we'd never played this Journey to the North expansion. And it's a big box expansion. You need the base game to play it. But we just had such a great time. It has to be my number 1 pick of the month for the games that weren't new to me. In terms of the games that were new to me, this was really tough because there were so many that were new to me that were really good. Earth, as I mentioned, and I think if I had played the actual board game version of it, it might be a little bit higher, but I'm going to say that it's kind of tied. I had 15 new games, and Empires of the Void and Earth are like, oh man, they're right there in that top 3 spot or so. They're kind of tied there. This one I think maybe edges it out because I did have the chance to play the physical form, physical board game of it. So Earth and Empires of the Void 2 are right there, kind of third place. Next up for new games to me would be Marrakesh, and I really enjoyed it, and I could see it maybe rising, even though it's 2 out of 15. Like it's really high just in this month, but I could see that really rising up in my overall ranks of games that I love. And then number 1 though this month, and I haven't even finished the full game of it yet. We're just playing it on BGA right now. But Space Station Phoenix, I am loving that game. I don't know what it is about that. Looking at it, I didn't really think it would be one that I would enjoy so much. I don't know why. It just didn't appeal to me. Not even sure why, But as I've started to play it every round, I can't wait for my turn to come back around. And I would love to play that one in physical form sometime. So my favorite new game to me this month, Space Station Phoenix. So there you go. That's the recap of my gameplays in February. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing a little bit about my experiences and a little bit about these games, what I enjoyed and didn't enjoy, and my top picks. So what were your top picks of the games you played in February? I'd love to read about it if you'll list that in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up, and it'd be terrific if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy Indiana, signing off.